Aftermath show, HCP Aftermath, Hispanics causing panic. It is Monday, and it's Monday after the Canelo fight. Canelo versus Ryder. Um, Good fight, man. This was a good fight. I liked the fight. I enjoyed the fight. Goes the distance. John Ryder showed that's one tough dude, man. Broken nose, second round, knockdown in the fifth. And to be honest, I saw the video again this morning. That was a knockdown in the ninth round, too. That was also a knockdown in the ninth round. So John Ryder went through some punishment, fought well, fought tough late in the fight. I thought it was a good fight. I mean, are you there with me? Good fight, good opponent. Everything was good. This is a good night.
There's two ways to analyze it. There is analyzing the way I analyze any other fight, right? And analyzing it from the expectations that I have for Canelo, right? Those are two different lenses that I'm looking at, right? One of them is it's like 720p, you know what I mean? The lens that we analyze Canelo with, and I do believe, Calix, that not only do I use this lens, even his biggest detractors judge him by this lens. They just don't admit it, right? They use a very forensic, a very microscopic, like microscope level lens, where you analyze a little more. So if I compare it to anybody else, I mean, for anyone else, this would have been a great win, a dominant 10-2 win. I have an easy explanation as to why he was getting hit in after like the fifth round. He was trying to get the guy out of there, so he wasn't fighting at his absolute best, right? Mm-hmm. So he was loading up a little too much in the punches, trying to get a knockout out in Jalisco, and even then he was still winning. But if I analyze it from the Canelo lens, right, or the elite fighter lens that I use for very few fighters, Canelo, Crawford, guys of that level, he's slipping a little bit. You know what I mean? He even when he was dominating right in the first 5 rounds, he's just that little bit slower. He's just that his reflexes are just that little bit lacking, just a little bit. Again, I'm judging him not to his peer, but to himself. I think he's slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, the competition is him against him. That's what greatness is, right? Is their peers don't push them, so they have to push themselves. The biggest competition becomes themselves, and it's not when you say that, it's natural. Like the natural career arc is that semicircle, right? It's like here's your peak right here. The problem with the modern day boxing fan is they think that these guys stay in the peak longer than they actually do. Like your prime is not going to last that long. It's just not. And the reason they think that way, I believe, is because they're not getting fights when they belong, when fighters are in their 20s. So they're getting the fights when these guys are in their 30s, like say Spence Crawford, 33, 37. Yeah. And they're thinking that these guys are still in their prime or close to it, and that's not the natural thing. And on top of that, why would people think that a dude 63 fights in, 18 years into his career would still be in his prime? It's the Captain Obvious take is he's past his prime. And that's normal and it's fine. And there's gonna be slippage, right? There's gonna be that's gonna be there with every fighter as time goes on, particularly when they're fighting tough fights throughout their career, right? Is we're gonna start to see that slippage, and some of the warning signs of it are they get hit a little bit more than normal because the reflexes might not be there. They may get a little more offensive mind. We saw this with Bernard Hopkins, Winky Wright. What happened? They get more exciting as they get older. Why? Because the defensive reflexes aren't there anymore. So they have to fight their way out of things a little bit more because the upper body movement isn't there. And that's what I saw with Canelo a little bit. It was a mixture of two things. One of them was he doesn't want to use the upper body movement as much. He wants to conserve energy, be a little more offensive-minded. But also one thing is when you see finishers go multiple fights without finishing, we saw this with Pacquiao when he moved up to welterweight, right? He starts to go on a long streak to where he's not getting stoppages. What it is with Canelo, it's a mixture of Bivol, Golovkin, Ryder. Those are durable dudes. Like, those are guys with granite chins. They don't go away. So it's a mixture of that and also some slippage too, right? But here's what I will warn people on is these narratives, these things that take hold can be a little bit lazy too, is the people who think, the Canelo haters that have been waiting, right? They've just been waiting. Those guys, I would caution them. With Canelo, you're a year and a half removed from him becoming undisputed champion, stopping Caleb Plant to become undisputed, and on top of that being the universal pound-for-pound king. There's not that much slippage in a year and a half, D-Style. Like, we're saying he's slipping according to what we've seen from Canelo. But what I would warn, like, the Benavidez super fans on is it's not enough slippage for you yet. It may not be enough slippage for you yet because guess what? For the people out there saying, oh, look at Canelo, he couldn't stop Ryder. Guess what? A year and a half ago, he stopped the guy that Benavidez just fought and didn't stop. So it's not that much slippage yet, fellas. It's slippage for sure, and that's a natural process, but I still think he's the cream of the crop at 168. Bivol's a different monster altogether. It's just, Bivol, I don't see Bivol losing to anybody around 175. It's just a tough matchup, and it's by far the toughest stylistic matchup for Canelo. But anybody else at 168, there's a big gap in accomplishments and experience, and those are all winnable fights for Canelo. Benavidez is a close fight; it's a good fight. But I mean, any thoughts on that stuff?
Look, I mean, I just think, like I said, of course, there's a slippage. There's gonna be slippage. If you look at the amount of rounds he's fought, the amount of wear and tear that he's had, and it's just going to happen. But what I want to make sure people understand, even though I'm saying all this, is that it is very important for people to realize that I honestly believe that if Canelo was fighting Ryder in Miami or in Vegas or anywhere else but his hometown, he just cruises to a very easy decision, right? But he was making the fight harder on himself because he was trying to get the stoppage, right? When you try to get a stoppage, right? When you try to get the stoppage, it's more difficult on you because you're making yourself more vulnerable by definition, right? Like, you just are. And I think that's what people are missing here. I also feel like Canelo didn't feel that Ryder could hurt him. Like, I think he felt pretty comfortable maybe exchanging some shots because he thought, okay, well, let's exchange because one of these is going to drop you again. And in the end, he took some punches. It is what it is. I mean, it is boxing after all. I just honestly believe it's a combination of that plus the natural slippage that's going to happen. But like you said, he is a ways to go, bro. Like, he's a ways to go before he's a shot fighter or completely done. I saw Ishe Smith, and I don't know what you think about these. All these different individuals were giving their thoughts about Canelo. And look, let me go on the record. Everyone's allowed to have their opinions. So this is not me censoring them or telling them to shut up, or that's not me doing that. However, if you're going to put your opinions out on the internet or on Twitter, I can dissect them if I want. Okay, so Ishe Smith, did you see his tweets, by the way? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't.
This is basically in a nutshell what he did. I'm going to give Canelo a pass because he's fighting in front of his hometown, but I never want to see these fights again. Either fight Benavidez, Bivol, or just ride off into the sunset, right? Now, what I would say to Ishe Smith and anyone out there listening, name me 3 fighters, just 2 fighters. Name me one. Name me one fighter that Ishe Smith beat that's better than Ryder. A better quality fighter than Ryder. Name me one. Because just sit there with your condescending shit. I'm sorry. Oh no, well, I'm gonna give him a pass. He don't need your hall pass. How about that? Canelo is a hall monitor. Okay, he don't need your hall pass. All right, sit down and either or don't watch the fight. To do a raging babe, like I'm not gonna order the fight, guys. I just want everybody to know. I just want everybody to know I'm not ordering it. Okay, hey, I'm not ordering the fight, guys. All week. Oh, oh man. I feel there's a fight this weekend with Canelo. Like you can't say that every day and then act like you don't know there's a fight this weekend. It makes no sense. But anyway, I'm you see, it's like a spider web sometimes when we talk Canelo and people because so many people say different things. But let me see how there's one web. I don't what Calix. What is it that people don't? I saw John Canobili or whatever, however he pronounces his last name. He does a video, and out of his mouth, the dude says, "This is literally what he says."
I did see that.
Oh, I think he's gonna fight Berlanga because Canelo. He don't want to fight Benavidez, and he doesn't care what the fans think. Like, if you're gonna label that to Canelo, you got to label every fucking fight on the planet that, right? If Canelo has the best resume. If Canelo has the best fucking resume in boxing, doesn't spare you the words coming out of your mouth like Canelo's gonna fight a Berlanga because he don't give a shit what the fans think. He's just gonna do what he wants. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's asinine. Okay, now, everything is give or take. Fighters are going for legacy and accomplishment, right, and money and all that, right. And then of course they want to please the fans, but it's a give or take. He was going after Bivol because he wanted to become undisputed at 175. Bivol's going to be the first guy who was going to fight. Then he was going to try to go for undisputed. Right? That was the plan. But I wonder what you think. What do you think of Dan saying what he said that Canelo's going to fight a Berlanga before he fights Benavidez? I just personally, I don't think Canelo's resume and history, the way he moves, shows me that at all.
No,
I don't see that at all. He's not a path to least resistance guy. He just isn't. And the worst thing is this. Is Dan going to say that about Tank, who you could really say that about? Yesterday I did a video and I said, I think I'm in the twilight zone. I feel like the way people talk about Tank, right? He has Canelo's resume. And when people talk about Canelo, you would think he has Tank's resume. I'm at a loss for words.
I know why that is happening. And by the way, somebody said something about my microphone. Hopefully the microphone's working good. Maybe it's just talking about how it looks. I don't know. Hopefully it might. Let me know if it's not working properly. But a couple of things. First of all, as far as the actual fight, D-Stop, you touched on something that I observed during the fight. Is he was clearly not concerned with taking a few shots in order to try to load up on that right hand, right? You saw that start to happen in the middle rounds as everybody, you saw people after the fight. He got touched up a little bit. What it was he's trying to load up on that right hand in order to get that knockout punch. And it just didn't happen because Ryder's not cooperating with that. Ryder is not going to go away. The only time Ryder's been stopped is when he was weight drained. And if you watch that fight, it was an early stoppage against a referee was in there who is known. The UK people know him for stopping fights early. It's his only stoppage loss in his career. He's known as a guy who was durable and he was not cooperating, but he's loading up on right hands in order to try to get John Ryder out of there. He's trying to get him out of there. And that's why he's willing to take some shots. And he's landed some big shots. Broken nose, like I said. I mean, 5th round knockdown. I feel like he had Ryder hurt again in the 9th round. He just couldn't get Ryder out of there. And, it looks like from the comment section, the chat, people are voting mostly 7 out of 10 for a B. And I think that's what Coppinger said. I mean, not Coppinger, whoever the guy was for the zone said it's a B- performance. I felt it was a solid B. It wasn't the best performance we've seen from Canelo, right? And remember, we are judging this off the standard of Canelo. Is anybody else puts on that performance? It's what we go back to. It's standards, it's expectations. We're not expecting great performances from good fighters, from even average fighters. Nick Saban talks about this all the time. He tells his players, I didn't bring average players to Alabama. He's like, if you want to be average, nobody's looking for average. Nobody's expecting great things from average. Get off my bus. Average people just want to breeze through and be average, and they're fine with not being seen and just doing the bare minimum. You expect greatness from great fighters, and that's why we grade with a heavier curve when it comes to Canelo. And a specific example of this is what? He stops Caleb Plant, and they start to say it's a weak, undisputed run. And then a year later, Benavidez beats Caleb Plant and doesn't stop him, and it's his greatest performance, and he's a monster, right? It's the different expectations that we see of fighters, and it's standards. We expect a different standard from Canelo. He's going to be judged from a different standard, and guess what? He's got to deal with that. That's what comes with face of boxing.
That comes with it, but I just want people, why can't people, I talked earlier that there's the everyone else lens,
it, right? Be honest
there's the lens we use for everybody else, right? And then there's the lens we use for guys like Canelo, which is a very nitpicky lens. Like it really is, right? And I don't think people acknowledge that though, right? And I hate to go back to the Dan example, for him to just so matter-of-factly say Canelo doesn't care what the fans think. And I don't think Canelo cares any less about the fans than any other fighter in the sport, to be quite frank with you, right? Because what I would ask Dan is he not just going to come back in September, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the ones that don't care about the fans of the sport are the ones that have been inactive for the last year. I think you could say those guys don't care about the sport. You have Errol Spence. He's going on 13 months, Alex. No fight. No fight scheduled at 13 months. No injury. And when he's confronted about it, he says, well, strip me then. Who doesn't care about the fans? Jermall Charlo has been inactive for we're going in on 700 days. And just watch, we're going to have that 700-day celebration. So everyone stay tuned for that. I don't get it.
But it goes back to the standard, right? We held them to a higher standard. We just want fans.
Look, if Fury just fought a washed up Chisora, bro. Yeah. That's the equivalent of that's it. Like him fighting Chisora is like if Canelo would have handpicked like Darrell. You know what I mean? Like that's the equivalent of it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't for the life of me. I think a lot of people are confused, bro. I think a lot of people are. We have two people. We have the grifters that know what the fuck we're saying, and then you have the uneducated public. And the uneducated public regurgitates a lot of the things the grifters say, Alex. Mm-hmm. So I saw a lot of people in the uneducated public say things like, "Oh man, Canelo is fighting a guy that will get knocked out by anybody in the top 10." Well, that's something like, okay, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I could forgive a person like that because they're just obviously a casual that doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. But it's the grifters that insinuate things, that insinuate a Ryder is not a top 10 guy, that add that fuel to the fire, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. Right?
But there is a big problem with American content creators, right? They overvalue American fighters and undervalue foreign fighters.
I got a tweet about it.
Particularly European fighters, because they're all Euro bums, right? Evan Nejian was a Euro bum, and Ryder's a Euro bum. There it is. There it is. I mean, if Plant fought John Ryder this summer or this fall, whenever, would people would it shock you to see John Ryder beat Caleb Plant? Would that shock you? to take care of
Kelly, but it goes back to what we're talking about. I had a guy on that arguing with me saying, you read the tweet. Okay, for those that couldn't see it or whatever, or just listening, I'm going to read it for you, okay? Follow me on Twitter, by the way, at D-Style Boxing, and follow Calix. I think it's, what is it, Calix Boxing 2? Mm-hmm. And make sure you follow. You guys got to follow us on Twitter, man. I'm just saying, all right? If you don't have an account, make one. I'm just saying, all right? It's not that bad. It's not that, oh, I heard Elon makes everyone bend over backwards for him. No, you're fine, okay? Just don't worry about it, man. That thing's out of focus. All right, but look, I'll read it for you guys. It's clear that Ryder is an example of American fight fans underrating a British fighter, while Plant is an example of American fight fans overrating a fighter. Let me remind everybody, before the Canelo fight, okay? Before the Canelo fight, Plant is the only thing white about Plant is his skin color. Canelo's intimidated. That was Drew Titan, by the way. We want names, guys. Oh, the only thing white about Plant is his skin color. Canelo knows that. That's why he's intimidated by Plant, he said. Right? And people will go around. Oh, other dudes were calling him white chocolate. And I mean, all types of shit. They were calling him white chocolate. Okay, they were saying he has the sauce. You're from Louisiana, so maybe it's a thing over there. Is it like a southern thing, like the sauce? What does that mean? He's got the sauce. So Ryder doesn't have the sauce, but here's the thing. Like all bullshit aside, right? Like all bullshit aside, and this goes to everybody, all right? I had dudes arguing with me that, oh yeah, but he should have stopped Ryder. He should have stopped him. But they also tell me Plant is better. Well, Canelo stop Plant. You know who didn't stop Plant? Benavidez couldn't stop Plant. Mm-hmm. So what's up with that? And we're going to criticize the guy who knocked out Plant for not knocking out Ryder. We got to keep the same energy, bro. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, we got to keep the same energy.
We don't, though, is the thing. And what I mean by that is, but what I mean by that is different standards, expectations. So I don't expect great things from good fighters. I just don't. I expect great things from great fighters. I expect good from good. I expect average from average. I don't expect to see fighters who have been fine with coasting through and being average and not taking chances all of a sudden take chances. I have a certain standard for Canelo Alvarez. My standard for Canelo Alvarez is to look great, to try to be great by fighting great competition consistently. I have that standard, and I talk about it all the time, is he's built up this universal fan base. Because people always talk about, oh, Canelo, he's got that built-in fan base. You know, that's why. No, you don't understand. He started with that fan base. He kept it, unlike Chavez Jr., by behaving a certain way. And then he broadened that base. It became an American base. It became a UK base. It became an Asian base. Universally, this is a universal brand now. And why did he do that? He behaved a certain way consistently. And now we expect a certain thing from him. And that's what comes with face of boxing and making the money and all this stuff. But I don't have to keep the same energy. I don't ask that they keep the same energy with Benavidez, because Benavidez beating Plant, just beating him and not looking great and not getting a stoppage in the process, I'm fine with that, because I don't expect a certain thing, right? What I want from them is to be honest about why they don't keep the same energy. That's what I want. I want them, and we know these channels, these style. We know who they are. They might be the guys who even say that Canelo might not have beaten Golovkin in the third fight, right? That's how biased these guys are. But I want them to be honest about why they say these things. I want them to be honest about, you know, when Canelo beats a John Ryder 10 rounds to 2, 12 rounds to none on a scorecard, and they're still saying, oh, that's a C performance. You know, that's a B- performance. Why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? Because you have a certain expectation of Canelo. Why? Because you think Canelo's great. You can't have these expectations. You can't have great expectations of Canelo and just say, oh, he's a good fighter.
Yeah, but they provide themselves with cover, though, right? The cover that they provide themselves with is, no, I'm going by what you guys say. You guys think he's great. So that's why I'm, okay, then don't judge him how you think I'm judging him. Just judge him however you want to judge him, right? If you think Canelo's shit, then the Ryder fight, that win should be like a great win. I mean, I'm just saying. This is a guy that beat Danny Jacobs. This is a guy who arguably beat Callum Smith.
Zach Parker's a good win, man. That's a good win.
Beat Zach Parker. Zach Parker's the same guy that Andrade didn't want to fight.
But they can't put it in the proper perspective. It goes back to what we were just talking about, is they don't follow boxing outside of America.
They think Alex.
Hold on, but a specific example of this is when they're calling for a guy who hasn't fought in 688 days. We're doing the count. Charlo, 688 days. And then they're calling for a guy in Boo. I saw it again. The guy Punch Drunk Boxing earlier. He's saying Canelo was afraid of Boo Andre. We've been over this a million times. If Boo Andre beat Zach Parker last year, we could at least be discussing that, but it's a non-starter because John Ryder beat a guy that Boo Andre ducked twice last year. It's a non-starter.
This is a guy. This is the equivalent of like if Canelo's the NBA Finals, right? Like Andrade didn't want to play in the playoffs, and then he's mad that he wasn't one of the ones selected, right? For a scrimmage game. Because they picked Yildirim for a scrimmage game. He didn't have to play in the playoffs. Well, if you don't want to play in the playoffs, you can't complain if you're not the one selected, right? You can't complain that you're not one of the tune-ups, right? Like the guys that are selected just got lucky, right? Because you could select literally from hundreds of fighters. In Canelo's case, he only has a very few select he could pick. But this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous the way some people are acting out here. All right. It is fair game to say, hey, I don't like how Canelo looked. I think he should stay away from Bivol. Those are different. Those are just, that's just you analyzing the situation, right? And giving your perspective. But there are a lot of people that have this kind of narrow-minded and quite frankly disingenuous process of thinking when it comes to Canelo, especially the grifters, especially the ones that I know are content creators and watch boxing, and I know they know better than to insinuate things that make casuals believe things like Ryder's not even a top 10 fighter, right? Like I mean that's where we are right now. We've reached a point where people have put Canelo in this weird, like, lose-lose situation. Like, they always want to put Canelo in a lose-lose in their mind, somehow, right? So no matter what he does, they're gonna look at the negative side of it, and they're gonna frame it as a negative, right? So, for example, if he fights Benavidez next, he's ducking that smoke from Bivol. He don't want none of Bivol, right? That's what they're gonna say. Right, they're gonna say he's ducking the smoke. He wants nothing to do with Bivol. He's gonna go for Benavidez because he knows he can't beat Bivol. I knew Canelo was all that talk about like you know what I mean? Like it's gonna say
Bivol at 168. Oh, he's draining them.
And you know who was doing that? Ward was doing that. He immediately came out. Not even knowing the facts of the case, by the way. Ward's like, oh, yeah, why is Canelo always got to try to get an advantage? First of all, Ward, you're the guy who fought a dude from 175 at 168. That's you. Right? That's what yes, Dawson called you out, but so you should know better. You should know, right, that Bivol was the one insisting in the fight being at 168. Like, but anyway, if he does fight Bivol, no, but nobody asked for that fight. Why that fight? The same person that would criticize him for ducking is going to say, why that fight? Nobody asked for that fight. He can't win, bro. The dude can't win. Whatever he does, they're going to find some negativity. Okay?
Always.
They're going to find some level of negativity. They're going to criticize him no matter what. It reminds me of like American politics, where the guys that don't like the Democrats are going to criticize the Democrats no matter what the Democrats do. Okay, the Democrats can criticize the Republican no matter what the Republican does. And when someone in their own party does the same shit, they don't say anything. That's what we have right now. All right, Canelo does something, criticize him. He doesn't do something, criticize him. If your favorite fighter does the same thing or doesn't do the same thing, you don't say anything about it. That's where we are right now. At the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I just switched the background. Fix that background if you can. I'll mess that up. But the issue here is it's manifold. And I don't want to spend too much time focusing on the narratives, all that stuff, and pushing back on them, all that good stuff. But it's a good performance against a good fighter. There is that career arc, that natural career arc that's happening. It's happening. 32 years old, 63 fights in, 18-year pro. It's going to happen. Like, a guy does not stay in his prime that long. People don't realize this. Like, you have a couple years, you have maybe 5 at the most when you're in your prime. And the prime happens when your raw, natural talent, that young talent, meets development. It meets technique. All of it peaks at the same time, right? The issue fighters have now is they're not fighting top competition in their 20s, so they can't get that technique down because they're not sharpening their blades, right? So they have the talent early on, but they're not utilizing it with tough fights early on. Michael Jordan's prime was somewhere between 88 and 93. That was his prime. Michael Jordan wasn't in his prime in 96 to 98 because if he was, he wouldn't have perfected the 15 to 18-foot fadeaway jumper. He'd still be blown by guys, right? So he was in his prime somewhere between 88 and 93. For Canelo, what would you say his prime was? His prime years were probably what? When he was entering middleweight, probably around that time? That's probably his peak,
I think
right?
like the second Golovkin fight, somewhere on there.
Yeah, so it's probably his prime is probably what, from 2015 to 2020, somewhere around there. That's probably his peak run, right? And now 2021, 2022, it's incrementally going to start to go down. But once again, I will warn the people who are speaking of demise and a washed fighter, right? Is you're still dealing with the top guy at 168 who is still a top 10 pound for pound guy somewhere on there. Whether you have him 3, whether you have him 5, whether you have him 6, he's on there somewhere. And on top of that, you're talking about a guy who is a year and a half removed. He's like, what is it now? 18, 19 months removed from stopping Caleb Plant becoming undisputed champ in pound for pound king. He didn't slip that much, fellas. He didn't slip that much. So I would be careful out there. If you're one of these Canelo haters and you're preaching to people that this is the end, it's over now, it's done, I would be careful because you're setting your favorite fighters up and you're setting your base up, your fans of other Canelo hating guys up for probably some disappointment because this guy's got some other good to great wins left in his career. He does. And I'd still slightly favor him over Benavidez. The issue with that, what makes that a good fight is what, D-Style? Canelo has never hit the canvas in his career. Not once. He hasn't hit the canvas. Okay, so if Benavidez is not going to knock him out, and on top of that, he's not going to outbox him because he doesn't have the technique to do that. What does he have to do? Right. He has to output him. Beat him with output. And that can be done. That's the good news for David Benavidez is inferior fighters have beaten superior fighters through output. Perfect example, Jermaine Taylor, Bernard Hopkins. People didn't think Jermaine Taylor was going to beat Bernard Hopkins. And guess what? He beats him twice based off of what? Activity alone. He's just putting punches out there and refusing to be wrapped up. And Benavidez can do the same thing to Canelo, but at the same time, he's not going to outbox him. He's not going to knock him out. That's what makes that a good fight. So these Benavidez super fans out there that think Canelo's washed and now it's time to pounce and, they can knock Canelo out, things like that. You better be careful. You better be careful.
Look, I think the thing to note is this. Not only has Canelo never been put down, he the last time I saw Canelo hurt, he was 19 years old. He didn't have his man strength yet. And all it was, his knees buckled against Cotto's brother. Yeah, and he recovered within like 20 seconds. He was good, right? He recovered right away. Then he proceeded to beat the hell out of him after that, right? So that's the last time I saw Canelo hurt. This was before he had his man strength, okay? Like, so it's important for people to understand he's never even been hurt. Not even that. Now, look, let me read Naldo's super chat here. Canelo needs better advice. He should be using Bivol and Benavidez as leverage against each other. Fight where he wants, when he wants. 100%, but he's already doing that. See, he did it in an interview, and I know you saw it, Calix. Shout out to Flaka, a friend of mine. She and two others were doing the interview with him. And they asked him about Bivol, like, is he next? And Canelo said, look, I want the fight with Bivol. I wanted a 175. And then he proceeded to say the following. He said,
I saw it.
It doesn't have to be that, though. I'm not hell-bent on that if I have other options. I had Benavidez. And then he said, I don't like the fact that he said Charlo's name, but he said Charlo, right? Whatever.
So what else he said after that?
Yes, that's what I'm getting at.
About Morrell Jr.
Yeah. So Flaka is like, what about Morrell? And this is all he does. I want to make sure people understand this. Morrell, the WBA champion, and then he goes, oh, I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess. Like, and then you got people. He said the fucking Benavidez name. He said, oh, I can fight Benavidez. They're not happy. Why? Because he said, oh, you see that? He's pretending to not know Morrell. I just honestly don't think but let me say this. You expect me to believe? Do you really believe that he's like, who's that? Nobody knows who he is. Like, I don't want a piece of him. Yeah. Like, no one's calling for that fight. Nobody's pressuring him to fight Moriel. Okay, Canelo said multiple times he doesn't really watch boxing that much. Okay, I just don't think he knew. But this idea that he would call out Charlo and Benavidez, right? But just tremble at the sound of David Morrell's name. Like, oh no, the name. Maybe it is a name that should not be spoken. Right? Shout out to Broadway Joe. It was like, oh, come on, he's got to know who he is. He's in his division. Like,
but it was funny on many levels when I saw it. And when I saw this clip, I forgot who put it on Twitter, and I laughed for at least 7 minutes straight after I saw that because it was so funny to me on so many. Because I saw what was coming after that. Because you just illustrated that is no matter, and this is why you came up with this theory last year. It's like, pick one. Just pick one. Don't give me a list of 10 guys you want Canelo to fight. When he picks one, you give him, and you say, no, he's ducking these other 9 guys. No. Just pick one. Pick one, and he'll likely give it to you within the next couple fights, but pick one and stick to it. But that's why the first thing I found funny is they're going to use that when they're going to be like, oh, even though he threw out Bivol, Benavidez, Charlo, they're going to say, oh, look, he doesn't know Morrell Jr. The second thing the main reason I found it hilarious, and I was laughing hysterically, is I got to be honest. I think he's being genuine. Like, I think he genuinely doesn't really know Morrell Jr. And boxing fans on the internet don't realize this. They don't understand it. We're in a bubble here. And we follow the sport like comic book nerds follow comic books, right? And Nando has spoken about this as well in the chat, is when you go to actual fights, boxing fans that go to fights don't necessarily follow it the same way. And in particular, when you go to gyms, fighters do not follow the sport as closely. Most of them do not follow the sport as closely as the fans. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Canelo knows who his main threats are and where to get the legacy. But at the same time, the other guys, he's not sitting watching boxing. He's too busy riding a white horse on the beach, trying to make the
but Kelly, they showed a clip. They showed a clip of I think it's a clip of Canelo meeting Morale like a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
He probably just thought he was a fan, bro. Like what do you mean? He meets people all the time.
And like by that people, point, Morale fought like twice.
Yeah, they walk up to Canelo and take pictures and say, "Hey, I'm a fighter." Oh, okay, that's nice. All the fucking time. But here's the other key thing, though. People were comparing it to Thurman pretending to not know who Boots was, right? But Thurman was doing it in a condescending, dismissive way. Like Thurman does know who Boots is, but he was saying like, "Oh, I don't know who that is. Who's he? What's he done?" That's how Thurman was doing it. That's not what happened in this case. He literally just asked, "Who was that?" Like, oh well, we'll have to see. That's a very neutral answer. And even if he did say, "I'm not interested in Morale," if he fought Morale next, would he get credit for that? Let's be honest. I mean,
and you know what's funny is its expectations again. Is I said if Benavidez fights Morrell Jr., I'd be excited about it. I love that fight, and I give Benavidez credit. But I know that wouldn't be reciprocated the other way because once again, expectations. And remember when Morrell Jr.'s name was first brought up, and they thought Canelo fans were doing that. And it's like, no, his manager brought it up, and the sanctioning body brought it up. Canelo fans aren't. And my boy Drew, he was down in Mexico. I knew several people down in Mexico for this fight. They took the trip. And he said, I'm asking people about David Benavidez, and they don't care. They don't care down there about David Benavidez. They simply they don't care. And once again, we're in our little bubble here. That is a big fight in America. It is. And it will do well.
Yeah.
But well, first of all, shout out to Nando for the super chat. Appreciate that. But Jamal fight would be hilarious and biggest money fight. Let B-Ball play himself. That's an interesting thing.
I don't want to
multiple. There are multiple moving parts here, right? I think on both sides of this, Canelo haters they're acting like they don't want to see the B-Ball fight, and then Canelo fans, we actually would rather see the other fights because they're more intriguing fights because we've seen B-Ball before, and you and I have been over this before, is we don't want to see rematches when they don't need to happen. We definitively saw the first fight, what happened, and we don't need to see it again. But there's this notion going around from Canelo haters that what? Canelo fans are out here sitting around like, oh my God, Benavidez. Oh my God, we don't want to see that fight because look at how great Benavidez looks. And, Canelo sitting at home like, oh my God, the Mexican monster. I don't know what I'm going to do this time. None of us care. Like Benavidez is not bothersome to anybody on the Canelo side. Like this is something that let's look the Benavidez fans in their eye real quick is nobody fears him. I don't know what to tell you. Benavidez could end up messing around and winning that fight. Benavidez, we can become fans of Benavidez if he consistently fights top competition going forward. That's not what we're saying. We're not trying to demean Benavidez and what he could be in the future. He's a talented fighter coming into his prime, and he can do great things in the sport. He can. And we're not trying to demean that. But your narratives out there that Canelo and his fans are fearful of Benavidez does not exist. It does not exist. Nobody fears that dude over here. Nobody. Canelo is not fearful of Benavidez. Never was. Never will be. Canelo's fans would rather see the Benavidez fight than the Bivol fight. Why? It's a more winnable fight, number one. It's a better fight. Number two, And we would love for the Benavidez super fans to just shut up. Just shut. We're all so tired of hearing you. We're all so tired of hearing from the Benavidez super fans who are temporarily adopting this dude in their war against Canelo. We're so tired of you.
I'm also tired of this. I'm just tired of the name. Like, I'm just tired of the guys that are acting neutral out here saying things like, "Oh, you know, he don't want to fight Benavidez. So what should Benavidez do?" And it's like, yeah, I want to see. I hope that the energy is the same when the fight's official. All right, because and I hope a lot of you out there don't throw Benavidez away the way you threw Plant away after he lost. White chocolate was not white chocolate anymore.
Billy Joe too.
Yeah, Billy Joe. I remember Billy Joe. Oh, the movement of Billy Joe. Oh,
Golovkin as well. Golovkin was the boogeyman at middleweight until he wasn't. Then he was just an overrated fighter, right?
The movement. But shout out to the movement of Billy Joe. The movement of Billy Joe said you kind of all types of problems. The Canelo goes in there, breaks his face, right? He literally concaved his face, right? Like just broke it. Yeah, but movement was not an issue with a big ass. We give him a big ass ring too, right? No issue at all with Billy Joe. Broke the dude's face, bro. Broke his face. Just saying.
Yeah, and it goes back to being the generous A side. It's 22 by 22, whatever. And they're acting like this, whatever there was, 18 by 18 the other night. John Ryder's also the same type of fighter, fellas. Like John Ryder wanted to be in a phone booth with Canelo. I don't know what you need to see. And also, if you look at there are red flags for seeing a fighter that is on the downturn, right? So you don't have to just make stuff up. If you look at CompuBox data shows Canelo starts off economical, middle rounds he ramps it up, championship rounds he's economical again. You can go back to championship fights a decade ago. Now they're trying to make this big thing like, oh, he's wearing down late in fights. Look how he's wearing down late in fights, fellas. He's always looked like you're just not used to him the past couple years, seeing him in championship rounds because he's stopping these guys. He stopped the guy a year and a half ago in a championship round. Why are you doing this? They stay up at night. Just it eats them alive. I said it the other day. It's like they had to have been sitting in their houses Saturday night, and I'm sure some of them, closetly bought the pay-per-view and lied about it. But they're sitting there like, look at all these people having fun, 60,000 fans, and he's fighting in Europe. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? They can't just have fun and watch boxing.
No, they can't just have fun and watch boxing. Look, man, I was reading some. I just get a kick with the things people say and like how they just lack either self-awareness or common sense. This one dude tweeted out, LOL, he broke Ryder's nose, knocked him down twice, and he still couldn't finish him. LOL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is that like a flex? Like, wouldn't a flex be like if Ryder broke his nose and knocked him down twice, or like if he wasn't even able to knock him down or not even able to hurt him? Wouldn't that be the flex? The flex is that Canelo hurt him multiple times. That's the flex, that he knocked him down twice and broke his nose. That's how you, I'm trying to understand the logic behind it.
Do you think, let me ask you this, do you think any other fighter at 168 gets John Ryder out of there? Seeing what you saw Saturday night and knowing
I'm not sure.
Shout out to some American channels real quick, like True School Boxing called it, and he said it Saturday night. He's like, you thought Canelo was going to stop Ryder, you simply weren't paying attention. You simply have never seen this guy fight. And I think you had a lot of people who watch him fight.
To answer your question, look, anything can happen in boxing. So I don't want to go on record. Nobody can stop him because someone's eventually going to stop him.
Would you pick him? Would you pick somebody to stop?
What I'm saying, here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. I think styles make fights. Do I think a Benavidez maybe could overwhelm? I don't think he would. I would not. To answer your question, no, I would not pick somebody to stop him. But keep in mind, he took a beating in this fight, right? So a lot of Canelo fans got to be careful. Like, Canelo literally just beat the shit out of this dude, right? So his punch resistance may be shot after this because he took a beating in this fight, right? So yes, we may see Ryder down the line get stopped or whatever because he took a beating in this fight. He took a literal beating. I couldn't believe the shots this guy was taking. Yes. We just had Tank Davis fight a guy who got hit with a good shot to the body, took a knee, and he checked out.
Canelo was
hitting this dude
on that right hand. He was loading up on
Canelo
that right
was hitting this dude so hard to the body. You could see the red mark on that same spot on Ryder, the side of Ryder's body. He kept hitting them there over and over. And Ryder felt it, but he was in there with a dude, okay, that was there to fight and was not there to lay down for anybody, right? Mm-hmm. And when you fight someone who's not there to lay down, the way Ryan Garcia was there to kind of lay down for the moment things got tough, then things get tough, right? Yeah. It's so different than when Gamboa was on one leg and he was game and trying to fight back, right? And was not giving up. Tank had a really hard time taking a dude that has been knocked down 14 times in his career out of there. And do you see, like, when Tank was trying to load up and take out Gamboa, you see how it was hard to do it? Mm-hmm. You see how Gamboa was piecing him up at times with combinations? Because he's trying to load up and go for the knockout. That's what happens, okay? So I'm not gonna act like I expected Ryder to go to distance because I didn't. I honestly didn't think he would be able to take the punishment he took, right? Plus, I think he was a little fortunate. From what I understand, Canelo injured his right hand in the fight. So he's a little fortunate that happened because Canelo was not going to be missing with that right hand, right? Mm-hmm. Shout out to Joe B that pointed this out. Canelo went from throwing it straight to looping it a little bit. Kind of landed like a clubbing shot. And I think it's because he hurt his right hand, right? Or
by the way, that's another sign of a fighter on that decline, right? More injuries.
Yeah.
So I mean, going forward, do you think Bivol? I gotta give Nando credit again because Nando's out there saying, and it's frustrating to see.
We're not gonna give Nando any credit. No credit for Nando. Gosh.
By the way, we're sitting at 37 likes, so get us to 40. We're three likes away from 40. So if you haven't hit that like button, hit it for us. But the frustrating thing about Bivol is you're 2022 Fighter of the Year, and you don't parlay that into something the next year. And it seems like all their eggs are in one basket. And fine. But once again, they're in the public playing it another way. Oh, they're downplaying. Oh, we don't really want the Canelo fight. We just thought, we don't want it. We'll take it if they give it to us on our terms, but that's their only play. It's their only play. So what I would warn them on is be careful. And you know what it is, D-Style? It's they see what we've seen with Canelo is they all see it. He's a generous A-side, 22-foot ring, take it. 10 million to Caleb plan instead of 8, and I'll go to Showtime, even though I got all the leverage. Fine. They see it, and they're going to try to play to that. They're going to try to get everything they can, and at the same time, in the public, try to fool the public and act dismissive of the fight. Oh, Canelo, no, we don't really want that fight. We'll take it. We'll take it. But I almost hope they talk their way out of it because I would love to see Canelo come to the table and say, nah, you're out. You're done. You talked your way out of it. Let's go to Benavidez because I want to see what the Benavidez team does if that happens. Will they come out and say, no, we got a 3-fight deal already with PBC on our side? I want to see what they say if Canelo comes out and says, look, I like Trust Fund Eddie. I like working with Matchroom. I like the zone. Come over here. I got all the leverage. Come over here. I want to see what they say. And then I want to see if the Benavidez fans keep that same energy. The energy they have, right? They're all, they're walking around with their chest out now. They're walking around with their chest out. So I almost hope it happens because I want to see the energy shift that will happen, that I know will happen.
Look, there are guys, to their credit, that are Benavidez fans that will stick by him, right? So I'm not talking about every Benavidez fan, but there's a lot of guys that like Benavidez because it's in spite of Canelo.
Right.
It's not because they're pro Benavidez. If they were pro Benavidez, where the fuck were they? Like, Benavidez has been around for a while, bro.
And by the way, it's perfectly we need to be specific on this. Benavidez fans who just simply like Benavidez for whatever reason. Yeah. We're not talking about you. We're not talking
but here's the thing. So Benavidez, where was all the support for Benavidez just 3 years ago? Where was it? In fact, if he's got so many fans, well, why didn't nobody buy his fight with Plant? Because you know why? Now, shout out to the ones that are fans of Benavidez and you did buy the fight or you did go to the fight to see him and you've been following the guy. Shout out to you, right? Arizona, Seattle, stand up, right? Shout out to y'all. But if you're just rooting for a fighter because that's the guy right now, that's your handpicked dude at the moment to go anti-Canelo, well, you're not going to support him when he fights somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not a fan of that fighter. You're a hater of Canelo. But as a wise man once said, you cannot subtract from others to add to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I constantly see people try to take away from Canelo or to spite Canelo and his fan base. They pick these champions, like Punch Drunk has picked Andrade. You know what I mean? Like they'll just pick whoever. You know what I mean?
It's such a weird thing.
Well, look, if we're honest, Andrade gives him access, and I think you guys could do the math if you want. But I mean that's really what it is. But if we just need to look at it for what it is. If Benavidez has this hardcore fan base, so many people following him, and some people want to see him, why don't you all buy his fights? Why did his fight with Plant only do $3 million at the gate? Why is that? Something's not adding up, guys. I'm just saying. Something's not adding up.
It's not adding up. But once again, I'll look at the camera and say it one more time. Is the bit because they need these people you speak of. And this, I'm excluding just genuine Benavidez fans because everybody has a right to like who they like for whatever reason. And on top of that, Benavidez has endearing qualities. And we've said this, like if Benavidez goes on this run where he fights 4 or 5 top fights in the weight class, we'll become fans. We leave that door open. But here's the thing, for the Benavidez fans that you just spoke of, the super fans who just do it temporarily, you're spreading these narratives, and some of you may believe it, that Canelo and his fans fear Benavidez. Nobody fears him over here. It doesn't exist. In a duck, specifically a duck is when you avoid fighting a fighter at the expense of fighting a fighter and then go fight a fighter who is weaker than that fighter or a better matchup for you. We don't have that here. Bivol is a better fighter than Benavidez by all measures. And on top of that, he's a tougher stylistic matchup for Canelo by far. He is by far Canelo's toughest fight, toughest matchup between 168 and 175. By far. By far. And by the way, he's the stylistic guy that you've explained the past decade that Canelo doesn't want to fight. And not only did he fight him last year, he wants to fight him again with the whole world saying, you don't need to fight the fight. You don't have to fight the fight. And then you're going to lie about why he's going to fight that fight. I've explained it. I've tried to explain it to him. It's this dude is wired like the type A personality guy. You're not going to key that guy's car. You're not going to step on his YG Nikes and just let him go. Let it go. It's not going to happen. He's not going to let that go.
You know what he should have done? I think this is what Canelo should have done, and he would have gotten more credit for the Ryder win. I'll tell you what it is. Okay, I'm going to tell you what he should have done. Because a lot of this stuff is happening like by accident. It's not by design. And I'm noticing a pattern. What should have happened was the WBO should have named Ryder the mandatory. And then Canelo should have just came out and said, I have no interest in fighting Ryder. And I guarantee I know what would have happened. Oh, why doesn't he want to fight Ryder? Oh, I think Canelo's a little worried right there. He don't want to fight no Ryder now. You know what I mean? And then Eddie could come out and be like, well, I was talking to him about fighting Ryder, but he just doesn't want to fight Ryder for whatever reason. Like, and I'm telling you, like half of these people criticizing the fight would have been talking about, at least till it was signed. Like, oh, he don't want to fight no Ryder. He knows what's up. Canelo's old, and he doesn't want a rough fight like that. Like, he's trying to stay away from, he wants to fight pretty fighters that don't rough him up. And, you know what I mean? I could guarantee you.
Then Ryder would have been the toughest.
Like put the Morrell thing foul in his lap. So what now? If he picks, let's say he says, oh, you know what? I want to fight Morrell. Are the same people saying, like, oh, he's acting like he doesn't know who Morrell is? Uh-oh, the name that should not be spoken. Moriel. Like, remember this a couple of weeks ago? We're like, shh, I'll say the name. Like, if I'm Canelo, bro, I get in his ear and I'm like, when they ask you about Morrell, just act condescending, like, you don't know what the fuck he is. You know what I mean? Like, who? Don't ask me about Morrell. Right? Get the fuck out of here, right? That's what I would do, because guess what? Dude, I guarantee you, they'll jump off the David bandwagon, and they'll be like, oh, no, Morrell's the dude. He doesn't want to fight. David is a deflection. He really doesn't want to fight Morrell. He's only going to fight David because Morrell was about to fight David. That's the only reason Canelo's can, like, it's gonna be, mark my words. Yes, Iceman, the Mexican monster. Thanks for the support, brother. Mark my words, ladies and gentlemen. Mark my words. They're going to start. Well, hold on. My mic went out there for a second. I don't know why stream that. There we go, right there. Mm-hmm. Mark my words. If he fights David, they're going to come out. Oh, he's only fighting. You know why he's fighting David? Because he felt the pressure from Morrell. Morrell was about to get that work. He was about to beat the fuck out of David, right? And then he was going to be forced to fight Morrell, who has that Cuban style. We know Canelo fears that Cuban style. Like, he fears a guy with movement and speed like Morrell. Like, I'm telling you right now, that's their dude, bro. That's their backup plan. That's the guy. They're gonna, if he signs to fight David, just watch. It's going to be, there's always this, in politics, they call it the pivot. There's always a pivot, right? They're going to do a slight pivot, and they're going to go from, and again, we're not talking about the actual Benavidez fans, by the way, right? They're going to do a pivot, Calix, and they're going to go from like, yeah, David's okay. It's better than what Canelo's been fighting, but we know Morrell is that real dude, because they're going to say David duck Morrell if he fights. If David Benavidez, and I want you David Benavidez fans to remember this, if he signs to fight Canelo, they're going to say he ducked Morrell. Oh, he's ducking Morrell to go fight fucking Canelo. And they're going to say Canelo's fighting him. They're going to say they're fighting each other to avoid him, pretty much.
My favorite part about this whole thing, though, is they'll flood the zone with narratives, right? And it's too many to keep up with. And then you try to push back on it, right? It's like shooting at zombies. You can only pick your spots. Every once in a while, I'll come on here and you just shoot. It's fun. You just try to shoot. Nothing's gonna get done, but it's fun target practice. But my favorite part about it is they'll throw a brick and hide their hand. It is. They'll push these narratives, and then you push back on them, and they'll be like, whoa, what is this? Where is this coming from? What do you mean, where is it coming from? We're simply just pushing back on your narrative is what we're doing. And it's constant. It's constant. Yeah, get us to 50 likes, 6 more.
Really quick, well, I got to put that back up. I need to do this before I forget. You see, guys, I'm going to tell you what time it is, guys. You know me. I don't just give you the truth. I give you nothing but the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Guys, look, guys. You see, I was always wondering, well, why does Canelo not want to fight David? But why would Canelo be worried about a Mexican? Well, we know It's the black fighter that he doesn't want to fight. Guys, what a coincidence that David Benavidez was just talking crap, guys. He was using Muriel's name, guys. That's all they were doing. I think Canelo and Benavidez worked together, guys, to help to avoid, Muriel. We all saw. Look at the energy of Canelo, his body language, guys. Look how comfortable he sounded, talking about a retired fighter like Jamal. Well, he knows that he's retired, guys. So that's why he said he didn't say Jamal's name in 10 years, but all of a sudden he's talking about him, guys. Not that he hasn't fought all this time, guys. And then he said his fellow Mexican's name, guys. He said Benavidez's name. But notice the energy. Let me play the clip right now, guys. Look at Canelo's body language. He looks very, very scared right here. Like he don't want. Like he was getting flashbacks of that Mayweather fight, guys. I mean, like this is crazy, bro. Those narratives are going to start, but look, David never had intentions to fight in Muriel. He just used the name to leverage himself to get a Canelo fight. Now he's going to fight Canelo. Canelo's only fighting David because he knew Muriel was going to beat up, his fellow Mexican, and then he was going to get pressured to fight him. Guys.
Appreciate that.
Because it's like this and like that and like this and like that. That's how it's like that song, bro.
Appreciate that super chat. But Steve Spark, did you feel he won that fight on the undercard?
Steve Sparks 100% won that fight. First of all, the tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that I think he won. There was a knockdown, but even then, like, find me 5 rounds that Valenzuela won. Find me 5. I don't see it, right? And for the record, I didn't watch the fight live. I watched it later, but I didn't watch the whole event live. I had some shit going on. But look, the controversy, that's bad enough. The controversy is how blatant it was over there with the commission or whoever. They switched 2 of the judges, and those 2 judges scored it for Valenzuela. Like, you can't make this up. Like, this is like straight out of like a movie or something. They literally replaced 2 judges with the 2 judges that scored it for Valenzuela. Mm-hmm. If there was ever a case to overturn a fight, you can't really overturn a fight based on, like, because it is subjective. It's hard to, like, prove, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But they could overturn it based on the circumstances of how the judges were agreed to, and then they switched the judges at the very end, and those 2 judges scored it for Valenzuela, and then they try to switch the ref too. I mean, bro, they're fucking nuts, bro.
No, it was bad. I had Stevie Spark winning the fight as well. I like Valenzuela. I like both of those fighters, but I had Spark winning the fight in a good fight. Julio Cesar Martinez comes back. I want to see what he does the rest of the year. They need to get him just active. And speaking of a fighter, because this news broke over the weekend during this card, Regis Prograis, another fighter that just needs to get active. So last week, I spoke on this earlier on Twitter, last week it starts to break that he's going to sign with Matchroom, right? And boxing Twitter just went after him. Oh my God, he's signing with Matchroom. Oh my God, all the fighters are there for time. Oh my God. And then Rick Maresian is on there. Oh, you're ducking the whole division. But what happens is Matchroom announces this signing during the Canelo fight. So you have people on pay-per-view saying, oh, Regis Prograis signs with Matchroom. And also it's a co-promotion deal. So he can put whoever he wants on the undercard. That's part of the deal. But also what happens is he's signing a 3-fight deal instead of a 5-fight deal for Top Rank. And I've explained this constantly on this channel, is you need to stay away from long-term deals with promoters with high minimums because you're going to end up on the shelf. This 5-fight deal will turn into a 5-year thing. Sign your 3-fight deal. Make sure the promoter knows you value activity. And what happens? He signs the deal. And 6 weeks later, he's going to be fighting in his hometown against Perro. And then on top of that, what's about to happen, D-Style, is Matchroom is about to meet with Matias, who is a promotional free agent. So all of a sudden, Matchroom is about to have likely
Tater has one more fight. Tater has one more fight with Top Rank.
So they're looking at the landscape and they're saying, this guy's Top Rank. No. Matias is likely going to sign with Matchroom, from what I'm reading. 3 of the top 5 at 140 are going to be with Matchroom: Prograis, Matias, and Catterall. He's got Perro there. He's got Catterall to fight. He's got Matias in the unification fight and activity. He can fight those fights and come right back to the table. Meaningful fights and come right back to the table next year after doing the three fights and have more leverage at the table. So that's why you need to stop listening to these managers. Is these guys are acting like Jose Ramirez. Dude, I got to be honest. And this people in the chat might not like this. We might have Jose Ramirez fans here, but this is a specific example. It's a teachable moment. I talk about all the time. The reason Canelo Alvarez continues to grow his base, even to this day, he continues to grow his base, and he can sell out arenas and soccer stadiums throughout the world, planet Earth. Anywhere on planet Earth this guy fights, it's going to be a sellout. He'll still do pay-per-view numbers. He's still the face of boxing, despite what they're telling you. Is he grew his base, and only he grew it organically, and only he can detach himself from it. The media didn't build this guy up. He wasn't artificially built up. You cannot tear down what you didn't build up. Canelo built himself from the ground up.
By the way, they're
from his base, but how can he do that?
I don't mean to interrupt, but just really quick, Rick Marijan, who was the manager of Ramirez, he's doing some serious damage control. If you're looking at my account, brother, and responding to it already, you're doing damage control.
Yeah, he responded to you again earlier. He's responded to me, and we want to we're not trying to pick a fight with a boxing manager. That's not what we're doing. And we want to you and I have both been Ramirez fans.
Love his fighting style.
But this is the thing. The only way Canelo can disconnect himself from his fan base is to stop acting like Canelo. And it's what the Canelo haters don't get. They see him lose last year and they're like, oh, here it is. He's about to lose his fight. He's not. Canelo can lose 3 straight fights. As long as he's fighting the top fights, we'll still be here. As long as he's Canelo, as long as he's giving us those ring entrances he gave us Saturday night and great nights of boxing, we're there. But Jose Ramirez is the example of not that, right? Jose Ramirez is the example of a guy who unification fights for undisputed, and then what happens? He disconnects himself from his base. How? By simply he stops acting like Jose Ramirez. He goes on a long honeymoon, turns down a title fight. After he comes back from his honeymoon, what does he do? He turns down a title fight. And then on top of that, he goes and turns down a title fight and fights who? Call me. A washed up lightweight. And then even after that, they're trying to act like he's a big name. It's frustrating to watch guys get managed incorrectly, right?
I just want to know if the fans, I want everybody to use your common sense for a little bit, okay? Now, Couch already said Matias, he may be going to, it's possible he might be going to match him. We don't know yet, right? Mm-hmm. Tater has one more fight left. I think we all agree he's more than likely going to beat Teofimo, and then he's going to be a free agent, right? This is what I tweeted. A daily reminder that Ramirez, a top-ranked fighter, did fight a matchroom fight already when he was champion. And Aaron confirmed in an interview with Joe Beeb that has no problem making a fight happen with Prograis and a top-ranked fighter. Only Ramirez management and pseudo managers are making up narrative that Regis Prograis has to sign with Top Rank to get the fights with a top-ranked fighter. Is it me, Calix, or is that a Matchroom USA logo right there in the smack in the middle of that?
That it is.
Is that a top-ranked logo to the right next to David next to Ramirez?
Yep.
And is that Hooker? Oh shit! So Is Hooker this big draw, like this big attraction?
You
Here's
know
what
what
they
that
know.
was right there? And I heard Bob Arum speak about this in the past, is networks can hold up fights that there's no meaning to, but that was a unification fight. They told Jose Ramirez, we trust you to go to that other network and get that belt. Bring it back to us.
Of course.
And
No, I
100%
that's what that, of course that's what that is. But here's the thing, and I don't think Ramirez and his fans realize this, okay? First of all, it is some nerve to say that it's Prograis making all the mistakes here when it's Ramirez who wanted to get married instead of getting the fucking belt from Zepeda. Okay? You know what Prograis did to Zepeda? Fucked him up and took the belt. And then you could have gotten in the fight with Prograis.
Plus 65%.
But you don't want to. But here's the thing, though. That wasn't even the case, though, Calix. It didn't even go to Perspit yet. They didn't even negotiate the fight. They didn't even make an offer. That's the frustrating part. He just said he wants $1 million to fight him, and that's it. Like who are you to just ask for $1 million? Like what? Here's the thing. It doesn't, like, this idea that Prograis does not need Ramirez. Ramirez doesn't have a belt. I don't know if it's dawned on you guys or not. Ramirez isn't the one with the belt. Ramirez is the one that got beat by in more clear fashion against Tater. Tater's about to be a free agent. Matias is about to be a free agent.
He is a free agent.
The division's about to clear up. Prograis is going to start his matchroom deal against a pretty decent fighter in Paro. I think he's going to beat up Paro, but Paro is a good game fighter, right? He's Stevie Spark isn't the best fighter in that division for Australia. It's Paro. Okay, just to put it out there, right? So he's going to start. He already has one of his 3 fights set, by next month. He should be done right away with that deal with Matchroom, and then we'll see what his options are, right? But Matchroom is a platform that was a problem with Regis before. It wasn't that he wasn't with Top Rank; it's that he didn't have a platform, right? Ramirez has one fight with Top Rank, and Mauricio's other fighter, I forget the guy's name. His other fighter, Barboza. He wanted the Teal fight. He didn't get it. And you're both with Top Rank. So even if you sign with Top Rank, there's no guarantee that you get the fight you want. You could end up like, it's easier to get frozen out sometimes if you're under the same banner, right? It's actually easier to get frozen out. They could sign you and not put you in a fight, and then you're stuck in litigation for a while. He's with Matchroom. Right now, the Zone just renewed the Matchroom USA deal. They have money to play with, Alex. They have money to play with. They're going to make offers to people. They're going to make offers to Ramirez. And you know what?
To me, that's the bigger signing. Whew.
And here's the thing. I honestly believe Ramirez is expendable to Arum.
That's what I was about to get to.
Arum's probably thinking to himself, shit, I got nothing to lose. Hey, Ramirez, if you bring back the belt, great. If you don't, it is what it is. You're not even my best 140-pounder. Like, I could definitely see him saying that to himself. That's why he was so quickly in that interview with Beeb to say, yeah, we'll sit down and work a deal with Matchroom. As a promoter, he's going to get 10 to 20%. If they're playing with the Zone's money and they offer Ramirez like 700,000 or something, or even a cool $1 million, he's going to say, yo, I want my cut. Go try to get that belt, son. Right.
And what was funny about that interview and why I was laughing, there's another interview I was laughing hysterically at is Steve Kim was on it too. He quotes me, you can hear Rick Marisian yelling in the background because he was trying to put them not making that fight on Top Rank. And Top Rank's out here saying, we'll talk to him. We'll sit down and talk to him. And what I was getting to with the Hooker fight was ESPN was fine with sending him over there to come get that belt. They said, we trust you. Come bring that belt back. And it brings us bigger fights on ESPN going forward. An undisputed fight, right? Go get that unification belt. Regis Prograis has something of value on the other side, right? A belt. Okay, so if his manager, if his network, if his promoter trusted him to go get that belt, what would they be saying? Go get that belt and bring it back. But they don't. They know he doesn't win that fight. And on top of that, what you said, what makes this makeable, and why Bob would say that I'm going to sit down with him is what? He's expendable at this point. He already went for undisputed. He's on the back end. He's expendable.
I mean, he
And
lost
I
the
know
fight.
a lot of the Jose Ramirez, and once again, we're not just talking about fans because we consider ourselves fans. We like his fighting style. We like him. What's going on with him? He's a good dude. But he hasn't been behaving like himself as of recent. On top of that, it's just tough to watch, man. It's tough to watch when fighters stop behaving like themselves, and you'd like them to at least be honest about why they're doing that, right? And it's just at this point, nobody's really looking for Jose, and that's what Rick is gonna. He probably knows that behind the scenes. He's lying on Twitter. Is the division has moved on. This isn't the 2021 division. It's 2023 now. Nobody's looking for Jose after he goes on a long honeymoon and gives up the title fight twice.
No way, Jose.
And that's what happens is when someone manages you that way, they're managing you out of meaningful fights, and they're doing it because they don't trust you. Is the division has moved on. Regis isn't worried, and you can see how he's now responding to Rick on Twitter. He's not worried about Jose Ramirez anymore. He's moving on. He's got Paro there. He's got a possible Matias fight. He's got a Catterall fight. They got fights. Josh Taylor fighting Teofimo. Raleigh's about to fight in the title fight. These guys have moved on.
Paro's the same guy that, look, man, Paro's actually a really good fighter. Like, he's not that bad, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to the week of that fight because, at least on YouTube, a lot of the Australian fan base is going to get behind Paro, and they're a good fan base, the Australian fight fan. So like they're going to get behind Paro. That's going to be a fun week. I think Progress is going to break their hearts, to be honest. But hey, they got to fight the fight, But that's a good starter. That's a good fight. Now, anyone who wants to criticize the moves that Progress has made after the tournament, where he lost a controversial decision of Tater, fine. But what you can say is that he hasn't got in his bag, though. He's made more money than Ramirez since then. And when you look at their whole career, I think Progress has had a better career.
Oh, there's no doubt. But also, the definition of insanity is you continue to do the same thing, right? And Progress needed to learn that I need to get active. And the way to do that is to sign the shorter term deal. When I hear five fight deal, Top Rank's offering a 5-fight deal, I'm like, stay away. Because that,
what that screams to too, right?
What's that?
That just screams to, well, we want you for 5 fights because we know you're going to beat our dudes, and we want at least 3 cracks at one of our dudes getting that belt before you finish the contract. That's what 5-fight deal means. And here's the other thing: with so many fighters just 1 or 2 fights away from their contract expiring with Top Rank, Teo's saying he don't want to fight with Top Rank anymore. Right? He's got 2 fights left.
2 years.
Taylor, 1 fight left. He's likely going to win that fight. Okay, I'm just saying, man. And then Matchroom has money. They have money to offer. They have a platform. I'm just saying, you guys got to understand.
Sign your short-term deal and come back to the table. Sign your short-term deal. Get active. Then come back to the table. Matias is trying to get away from PBC. These fighters want to get away. And you're advising a dude. That's why I say don't listen to these managers. You're advising a dude to take a 5-fight deal, and that could turn into a 5-year thing. And especially, why are you advising him to do that when the reason he's been on the shelf is he's signing these deals with a high minimum per fight? And they can't give him the fights because they're offering him this money and they can't fit that square peg into the circle hole, and they can't get these guys active. It's the reason Bud Crawford was on the shelf for a long time and couldn't get the fights. It's too much to put on one of these guys, put them on these fights. So get your short-term deal, get active, come right back to the table.
You know what's going on though, Calix? I'll tell you what's going on with some of the Ramirez fans. I'm just going to be very genuine when I say this, okay? I think it bothers them You know, because look, just like you and I have a lot of respect for Ramirez as a fighter. I'm a fan of his in terms of his fighting style. Mm-hmm. I supported him as you know. I support him in his fight against Taylor. I think, but he lost that fight, so his stock has dropped. I mean, I don't think he's a fighter. I think he's a fighter that knows his stock dropped and he's looking for a cash out.
But it's not. I want to point this out specifically. Sure. Yes, his stock dropped, but that's not what it is right now. I'm getting accept the dude losing after undisputed. It's what he did after.
Yeah, but I don't want to lose this point. Look, here's the thing. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Go ahead. I'll come back.
My bad.
Man.
My bad. But no,
it'll come to me.
No, my bad. But what I was going to say specifically is it's not losing the fight. Because there's no shame in losing the undisputed fight to a talented fighter who ended up 5-6 on the pound for pound list. That's not the issue. The issue is you come back from that fine comeback fight, and then you go on a honeymoon. And then you say, I can't fight the title fight because I'm on a honeymoon. We'll get to Prograis after he beats Zepeda after. And if Zepeda wins, we'll fight the rematch, and we'll come back for that. That's what they're telling us at the time. And then it comes to that time, honeymoon over. It comes to that time, and what happens? No, we can't do that because, we don't want to do 35% and this and that. It's like, no, this is the fighter. It's the specific example I talk about. It's what Canelo has not done and why he's kept his base. It's the fighter going away from what got him there. We don't need to see Jose Ramirez win every fight. We don't.
Well, his mentality is different.
We don't need to see Jose Ramirez be a top 10 pound for pound guy. We don't. We just need him to behave like the Jose Ramirez we came to love.
Yeah, but it's when you're undefeated and you believe like I'm the best fighter in the division, and then you get knocked down a peg and you realize you're not. Your mentality is going to change, and I think that's what's happened. But here's what I was going to say.
Okay.
What's bothering a lot of Ramirez fans and I think a lot of it is because they have a lot of respect for Ramirez. They like Ramirez. And a lot of fans don't like it. Like they don't like it when a fighter gets kind of accused of ducking, right? And the I think anyone who's objective understands that Ramirez doesn't want that Prograis fight unless he gets rewarded for taking that fight. Like he wants to be compensated for taking that fight. Right? He wasn't asking for that type of money against Coleman. He wasn't asking for that type of money against some other guys. But when it comes to Prograis, he's asking for this crazy amount of money. He wants $1 million. So you know what I mean? Like he wants a retirement check if he fights Prograis. And I think we all know that. And without using the word duck, or even though it's actually the Ramirez like claiming that Prograis is ducking, which I think is hilarious. But I wouldn't even use that term, but I think it bothers Ramirez fans. I could tell with their actions. I could tell a lot of them are acting out of character, Calix. A lot of them are fight fans that have been watching boxing for a long time, right? And don't even care about the business side of boxing. But now when it comes to this, they really care all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden they have a lot of opinions about Prograis and his business decisions when they never cared about that. Why? Because they want to deflect. They want to deflect the attention away from Ramirez, who looks like he just looks like a guy who doesn't want to fight Prograis, right? So they're trying to deflect from that fact, right? And trying to make this about no, it's not Ramirez. My Ramirez, it's not Ramirez. Ramirez will fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. Not my Ramirez. It's Prograis and his business decisions. No, you know what it is? I get it. Like it makes you uncomfortable when people insinuate that he doesn't want to fight Prograis, right? But like I think that's what it is. Now, look, just for the record.
Why is that though? It's because
I don't think he's
not their guy, and that makes it uncomfortable for them.
It's a scared thing. It's not he's not scared. Guys don't get scared. I'm not talking about fear of confrontation. Like, oh my God, I'm shaking. Fighters don't get that fear. Even if a guy knocks a fighter the fuck out, they're still not scared of that dude. You know what I mean? Like they'll still confront him in a lobby, like, yo, what's up? Even though, like, you know what I mean? Like if Canelo walked up to Ryder tomorrow, hey, motherfucker, what? Like, even though he just beat the shit out of him, Ryder would be like, what the fuck? Who are you talking to like that? You know what I mean? Like, he would still walk up to him. Yojon would still walk up to Canelo. You're not going to talk to me like that. You know what I mean? I'm going to make you knock me the fuck out again, motherfucker. Let's go. Like, that's how fighters are. Fighters don't get scared. Scared. But you know what they do? They make business decisions, Calix. They understand that their value and their stock, because you know what they do care about? They care about their bank account. They know their stock value drops. If Regis Prograis gets his hands on Ramirez, where he's now is going to be taken down a peg. Because Ramirez gets destroyed by Prograis. And I think we all know that, because you'll never hear the Ramirez fans. You'll never hear them say, why would he be scared of Prograis? Fuck Prograis up. Like you never hear them say that, bro.
It's like it's that energy that we have for Benavidez, right? As Canelo fans, it's like, dude, nobody's afraid of him. Nobody's afraid of him over here. We're just not. If they would do that with Prograis, instead they're bringing up business stuff, right? It's like no. If you were really not fearful, you wouldn't be speaking like that. You'd be speaking like us. It's like, no, nobody's afraid of Benavidez over here. Like, I mean, in fact,
if you gotta go, but bro, if you need to go to, he's not scared. Like, wow, that's a very low bar. Like you know what I mean? It's like, wow, he's a pro fighter that isn't scared of like fighting. Wow, you're really impressing me with that one. But fighters, first of all, the notion that fighters aren't scared as a definite rule is not even true, because I've interviewed fighters that have told me they felt fear before, or they sense fear from their opponents, right? Mm-hmm. That's number one. But second, most of the time it's not even that. It's not fear of getting punched in the face, but there is fear of like getting embarrassed. There is fear of losing. I'm not going to be on top of the world anymore. I'm going to be taken down. Like what happened to me after the Tater fight's going to happen twofold now, right? Yeah. Fear of I'm not going to have as much money in my bank account now. I can't request or demand as much money anymore if I get destroyed by this guy, right? Mm-hmm. Where now I could fight whoever. I could fight a dude for a cool $500,000. You know what I mean? And even nobody gives a fuck about the fight. I could do that right now, right? But it's all I want to say to the Ramirez fans, it's okay, right? It's okay. Like all I'm saying is that don't act out of character for this dude, man. That's all I'm saying.
Hell of an event. It makes me only want to go to stadium fights or fights that require a passport. I'm truly over the American boxing scene live. And there you go. And
shout out to Drew, by the way, Mr. Worldwide.
That's what I was talking about, who was out there. And he's asking fans about David Benavidez. And they're like, Kian? But the thing is, I've heard people talk about this phenomenon, and Drew's been to fights in multiple countries, is when you go to an event, boxing event in other countries, they're there during the undercard. They're turned up during the undercard. You go to an event in America, they're not there until the main event. It's just a different vibe. And it speaks to, I think, unfortunately, the growing intelligence for boxing in other countries and other parts of the world, and the diminishing IQ of the American boxing fan is, not there for undercard fights, not watching undercard fights, not concerned with other fights going on in different parts of the world at different times of day. Oh, I'm not waking up for that Japanese fight at 5, 6 in the morning. I'm not even worried about watching the replay. I'm not worried about the fight from the UK and on the zone at 1, 2 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm just not. And that's how they don't know a John Ryder. That's how they don't know an Ioka. A Nakatani. It's how they don't know these guys. And it's becoming increasingly evident, the phenomena you talk about, when American content creators are overvaluing American fighters and undervaluing foreign fighters. It's why they asked for Canelo to fight a guy who hasn't fought in 688 days, a Boo Andre, who turned down Zach Parker, and then John Ryder beat Zach Parker. It's how this stuff happens. All right. And what we're telling we're trying to be nice about this. American content creators, particularly on YouTube, you need to step your game up. you have to step your game up because you are miseducating the public. And I know you're doing it to be tribal, and I know it works for you. It works for your clicks, all that stuff. But if you want to be taken serious, if this is your goal, if your goal is to be taken seriously amongst intelligent American boxing fans, you have to step your game up. American boxing have to step your game up because you sound stupid out here and you're making us look dumb. You're making all of us look dumb.
You're making us look very dumb. And I'll tell you when it hit me. Now, first of all, you think a lot of these dudes who stay in the U.S., right? You think they're going to listen to a guy like Drew who actually goes places? No, they're not going to listen to him, right? They're going to be like, and shout out to Marcos Villegas, who I like a lot, by the way. But I need to say this. I mean, like the guy's like, I see a lot of empty seats out here. Like, bro, the place was packed because there's a couple empty seats across the stadium. You're going to and then, people, he didn't sell out. Kidding me, bro? I apologize about my mic. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you noticed. My mic's going in and out a little bit. But, well, what I'll say is this. By the way, we're 4 likes to 60, guys. I know we could get to 60, right? It will be a good way to start off Aftermath every Monday. We'll all train week after week, by the way. So next week it'll be on my channel. Have a new work schedule. So we're going to be more active now. So things are going to be better now, right? So look, all I know, right, is it hit me when Tim Tszyu fought Harrison. And I saw so many content creators just, even though the odds makers knew, because look, if someone knows it's the odd makers, because they're in the business of making money, right? They don't give a fuck if the dude's American and the guys, they don't give a shit. They want to make money, right? They make him the favorite. I don't know why this guy, Australian, has never fought nobody. Is a favorite. I think Harrison's gonna expose him. Never do we say the American fighter's going to get exposed. They never use language like that with the American fighter. When the American fighter gets beat, notice this, Calix, they act as if the other fighter has now proven himself. Notice that when Tim Tszyu beat Harrison, Tim Tszyu proved he's a real deal. But if Harrison would have beaten Tim, he was exposed as a hype job, right? Notice the leveraging here. Right? Notice that the Overton window is favoring the American fighter heavily, right? If the American fighter wins, he exposed the hype job. If the European, or in this case, an Australian fighter, right? Different continent, right? But to Bernard Hopkins, it's I don't know if you remember, it's Europe, right? To the American fight fan, Australia probably is Europe, for all we know. But to the foreign fighter, and there's another fight, I'm about to bring it up, by the way. And I think you know which fight I'm thinking about already. Where they're doing this to this fighter now, right? They're doing it. Inoue needs to beat Fulton to prove he's a real deal and prove he's not a hype job. But if he beats Fulton, well, that just proves that Inoue is a real deal because he beat the American, right? This is where we're at. We're in this weird paradigm where, and maybe it is the years of dominance that the U.S. had in the boxing scene, right? Maybe the American fighters have inherited the greatness of the past, but I got news for you guys. While we have good fighters, we don't exactly have Hagler out there. We don't have Hearn out there. We don't even have a Floyd Mayweather out there. You guys got, I'm telling you, yes, we have some. I do think that I do think Shakur's that dude. I do. But other than him, I just don't think a lot of these guys are that dude like that. I don't. Right? They're good fighters, but I'm just noticing. I'm noticing, man. Do you get what I'm saying? They're doing it to Inoue. And they do this to every foreign fighter. Every foreign fighter needs to prove themselves against the American fighter. But never is it, Lacey goes over there to England, to Wales. I believe it was in Wales, but to fight Kawasaki. To me, Lacey got exposed because Kawasaki didn't need to prove shit to anybody. I think he was proven, but that was not the narrative, believe it or not. And I know you don't like Calix. It's okay, Calix. Okay,
No,
but even you got to admit that he was that dude. You know what I mean? So, and to your credit, Frotch was that guy too. Time after time after time. Oh, he's the underdog. He needs to prove himself. He's a hype job. No. Well, he needs to prove himself. He's a hype job. Never did the American fighter never as an American fighter have to fight that many fights to prove he's a real deal. Mm-hmm. Harrison didn't need to fight a gauntlet like that to prove that people was a real deal. If anything, Harrison was the one that's been knocked out before and all that. But he was the real deal. And Tim Tszyu had to prove himself to him. That is the narrative we got going on right now. And I think people just need to realize it's a global sport. Everyone's on equal footing, and things are what they are. If a Cordina, he's a top 3 guy in the division. It's the way it is. It's not, he's only top 3 because he hasn't fought an American fighter. No, that's not what it is. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure people get that shit out of their head.
Yep. The landscape has changed. Noah picked 7 through 12 with receipts. Lost the bet. 7 through 12, second half of the fight. I was in first class and head of Saudi Boxing Skills Challenge was too. We had a good convo. He flew to Guadalajara for Canelo business, not USA. And this is the thing, is big event, good fight, good performance, about a B performance, and it sets up more big things for the future. And hopefully these other fighters step up their game because, and this will be my final thought, is you see people out there saying, Canelo doesn't want to pass the torch to this guy, that guy. Canelo's not in charge of passing any torches. We're in charge of that, right? So what you need to tell your favorite fighters out there is get interesting. Have an interesting career. Do interesting things. Get people interested in you. Stop paralyzing your career waiting for the fight you want to fall in your lap and get busy doing things. Be intelligent boxing fans, American boxing fans, American content creators who haven't caught up, who haven't adapted, adapt. Stop being low intelligent boxing fans. Stop. All right. So good event. We'll see what happens in September. Like I said, for me, I hope Bivol talks himself out of the fight, and I hope we get that Benavidez fight because once again, I look in the camera is Benavidez super fans who have adopted this guy in your war against Canelo. There's not a damn Canelo fan out there, and Canelo sure ain't scared of that dude. It is what it is. Your final thoughts?
All that is well said. I just want to thank everyone who tuned in. Again, every Monday, Aftermath, it's back under the HCP brand, of course. Thank you for supporting HCP, and thank you for getting us to 59. We just need one more like, just one. That's like it. You know what I mean? Just one like. Give me that like, guys. Give me that 60th like, and it'll be perfect. You know what I mean? Every Monday, we want to get to 60 likes, man, and I think we can do it. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us, man, and that's all I got.
Peace. We out. I'll be back. D-Style will be back. We out. Peace. HC.